Hello there, and welcome to UK Diesel and Electric Railway Modelling, and Part 3 of my Heljan Class 33-2 rebuild. For this video, I'll be preparing the body shell for the roof fan and grille. Like most diesel locomotives, the Class 33s have a roof fan sat in a tube up to the roof line. So for this video, I'll be creating the tube for the roof fan and dealing with a few body modifications along the way. First thing to do is to snip off the moulded roof fan that is attached to the body shell, and then cut away all the plastic that makes the recess that the old rubbery plastic roof grille was set into. You want to use a new blade for this, so you'll cut cleanly into the plastic. Nasty accidents can happen when you have a blunt blade, because you need more pressure to cut into things, and then you slip and dance the blade across your fingers or your hand. Believe me, I speak from experience. Once you have the ring cut close to the edge, use a curved file and file around the edges to create a smooth curve. If you notice, I'm filing sideways slightly. This is done to make a smoother curve rather than focusing on one point and getting some parts that are more filed than others, and then you end up with a lumpy curve with tiny indentations at certain points. Next, I'm going to remove the roof ventilators, which are slightly in the wrong place. These will be replaced later with some 3D printed ones by Model U. You're going to need a chisel blade. When you do this, the blade needs to be upside down, with the flat surface at the top and the angled surface at the bottom. This will pare off the raised plastic rather than dig into the body shell. With the ventilators removed, I'm going to use a smart tool that I created to sand off the roof for a smooth finish. This is a cheap £5 electric toothbrush I bought from the supermarket, which works as a microsander. The bristles were cut off and a circle of sticky back velcro was stuck to it. Then I have a thick piece of plastic card with circles of wet and dry in a variety of grades stuck to the other side of the velcro, so I can just pull one off and attach it to the toothbrush. This is better than a file because, like the hole for the roof fan, you can file too much in one place and you end up with an undulated surface. I start with 400 grit first and generally get it flat. And then move to 2500 grit for a really fine finish. I brush off any dust with a toothbrush. Now the roof is ready, I can begin the tube. I take some 20 thou or 5mm plastic card and cut 5mm strips of it. This is the approximate level from the top of the centre line of the roof to the bottom of the fan tube. I use the stem of a microfile and score down the length of the plastic strip. This will make it coil. Use a fair amount of pressure and pull it as tight as you can to the stem. Once you've done it a few times, the plastic wants to go in a circle now, but it needs to be tighter still. So pull one end inwards and coil it around in a tight spiral. You can then roll the spiral back and forth between your fingers and thumb, smoothing the plastic into a smoother ring. Now feed an end into the roof of the body so that it opens up into the circumference of the hole. This is a bit fidgety, but you're looking to see where you need to cut the white plastic ring so it doesn't overlap, but also so it's not too short either. Always cut too big. You can make small trims after, and going under will leave a gap that needs to be filled. Keep making small incremental slices until it's the perfect size, so when it's inserted to the roof, each end of the strip meets. Now I'm going to want to glue it into place. You want to line it up so the top of the ring is at the centre line of the body. I'm using MEK, methyl ethyl ketone, which is a common solvent perfect for modelling because it evaporates quickly. Alternatives to MEK are EMA's Plastic World and Deluxe Materials Plastic Magic. It's a liquid, it's brushed on like paint, and it seeps into the cracks, welding the plastic together. Don't use too much, it will leave scars on your model. The brush should be wet but have no drops on it. If you've never used a liquid solvent before, use some scraps of plasticard to test it out on. When you apply the MEK, it will take a moment or two to dry hard, which gives you a little time to make some small alterations to the position of the tube strip. Here I push down at the highest point of the centre line with a paintbrush to get it positioned in the right spot. Then I apply solvent around the ring at the top of the body and glue across the joint where the two ends of the ring meet. I give the bottom and top rings a second coat to make sure it's a nice strong joint between the two plastics. Now repeat the process for another ring inside the first, cutting and trimming as required. You may wonder why I didn't just use thicker plasticard strip. Well, the thicker the plasticard, the harder it is to coil it. 20 thou is more pliable than 40 thou, so you will get a smoother curve. When it comes to gluing, I want to have the solvent between the ring layers to get it to secure the layers together. So I push about half of the inner ring so it's protruding above the outer ring. Now when I apply the solvent, I can push it down, trapping the solvent between the inner and outer rings. Some minor alterations, and I paint a thin layer of solvent over the two rings to seal them together. Finally, I roll my paintbrush around the inner ring just to push the two layers together. Once you're finished with the solvent, don't forget to pop the lid back on. The first inch evaporates within an hour or so, but after that it's not so bad. But forget to put the lid on and you'll wake up the next day with an empty jar. I'm going to leave it to dry now, but while it does, I'm going to take the opportunity to cut out the body side grills. Although Brian at Shoreplan hasn't released an etch for these, I know that he's got the drawings complete and he'll be bringing them out when he has the time. To do this, you drill lots of small holes around the edge of the grill but inside the frame, and then cut between the holes with the modelling scalpel. Then you slice closer to the edge of the outer frame until it's about right, and file it flat and clean. Once the outer mesh is all gone, use the chisel blade upside down and remove the outer frames. File it flat and use some wet and dry to get a smooth finish. Now that that's all done, the tube for the roof fan is cured enough to remove the excess. With the chisel blade upside down, carefully pare away the white plasticard ring protruding above the roof line. Do this in small thin strokes rather than trying to get it all off in one go. Not only does it reduce the risk of slips where you damage the roof or injure yourself, but you are less likely to go too far and dig below the roof line. Once it's chiselled away enough, I then move to my wet and dry micro sander. There's bound to be a line between the ring and the body shell, but I need them to look as if they're part of the same structure, so I put a layer of filler around the edge. Invariably, you're going to make mistakes. It happens to the best of us, so while I have the filler out, I fill any dents and leave it an hour or two to dry. Now the filler's all dry, remove any excess parts with the curved blade. File it down a little, then use wet and dry to get it smooth. Another small job that needs doing is to remove the thin raised mould line at the corners of the body. Just file it down with a microfile and smooth it down with some wet and dry. Now the body is ready for the roof grille and ventilators, but that will be in another video. Although I don't really have a layout at the moment, I do plan on building one, and one of the YouTube channels that really inspires me is Heljan Class 47. Dave is building a wonderful layout known as Dean Park Station, which is heavily based upon Edinburgh Waverley. His scenery is fantastic, and he has a fine eye for details that many modellers miss. Check out his channel in the description below.